and gentlemen, I just became an official citizen of Gabon, of Africa. I am a loyal citizen of Zamunda. Gabon. This is the greatest day of my life.
What if I told you that some of Hollywood's biggest stars are out here swapping red carpets for red soil? Yep. From tracing royal bloodlines to collecting new passports like their Pokemon cards, these A-listers didn't just visit Africa, they claimed it. And trust me, the stories behind how they did it are as dramatic, inspiring, and occasionally hilarious as their on-screen performances. So buckle up, because today we're counting down 10 Black American celebrities who've either traced their African roots or gone all in and become African citizens. And spoiler alert, number 1 will have you questioning your ancestry too. Kicking off our list is none other than Tiffany Haddish, the woman who can turn a stand-up stage into a therapy session and a Hollywood set into a comedy club. But here's something you might not know. She's also now an official citizen of Eritrea. Back in 2019, Haddish took a break from making us cry-laugh to attend Eritrea's Independence Day celebrations and walked out with something way cooler than a souvenir fridge magnet, a passport. Her father, an Eritrean refugee, had passed before she ever visited, so Tiffany first traveled there in 2018 to bury him. 1 year later, she came back to honor his homeland and her heritage by becoming a citizen. Of course, in true internet fashion, critics popped up faster than spoilers on Twitter, accusing her of cozying up to a controversial government. But Tiffany, she brushed it off with the same energy she uses to roast hecklers. Because for her, this wasn't politics, it was personal. And if Tiffany's story made you tear up a little, get the tissues ready, because this next celeb went on a journey that redefined the meaning of going home. Blair Underwood, you know him, suave lawyer in LA law, award-winning actor, and proud owner of the smoothest voice since Morgan Freeman. But behind the Hollywood charm was a burning question. Where do I really come from? So Blair did what any curious 21st century human does. He let science solve it. Through a DNA test and a little TV magic on Who Do You Think You Are, Blair discovered that his father's bloodline traced straight back to Cameroon. And instead of just tweeting about it, he packed his bags, grabbed his dad, and went there. The trip was more than a vacation. It was a pilgrimage. Blair described it as eye-opening and life-changing, like unlocking a part of his identity he never knew was missing. And honestly, that's pretty poetic for a guy who once played a lawyer yelling, "Objection," on national TV. And speaking of powerful homecomings, our next star didn't just trace his roots, he became an honorary son of his ancestral land, complete with a brand new passport to prove it. Let's get something straight. Idris Elba doesn't enter a room, he claims it. And when he found out his father hailed from Sierra Leone, he decided to claim that too. During his first ever visit to the West African nation, Idris was granted citizenship, and he described it as the biggest honor of his life. And that's coming from a guy who's played Nelson Mandela, led Luther, and DJ'd for Prince Charles. Yeah, that happened. Now, Idris has filmed across Africa and championed its stories for years, but Sierra Leone hits different because it's not just a continent he loves, it's his bloodline. And with citizenship in hand, he's not just a visitor anymore, he's family. But if you think Idris's new passport is cool, wait until you hear about a Grammy-winning rapper who turned a Christmas trip into a full-blown homecoming celebration. When most people ring in the new year, they pop champagne, make resolutions, and post an "It's My Year" story they'll forget about by February. But rapper and actor Ludacris, he spent his new year picking up a brand new passport. Christopher Brian Bridges, yeah, that's Ludacris to the rest of us, celebrated Christmas and New Year's not in Atlanta or LA, but in Gabon, the birthplace of his wife. And instead of just sightseeing, he and his family became official citizens of the Central African nation. In a video that instantly went viral, Luda proudly flashed his Gabonese passport and revealed that his mom and daughters had all become citizens too. Our ancestors never gave up faith. You can never imprison our minds or our spirits, he wrote online. Powerful words, and also a perfect caption if you ever post a pic with your own dual citizenship. And if you think Luda's homecoming was poetic, the next legend didn't just trace his roots, he traced them all the way to a specific tribe. Samuel L. Jackson, the man who's been in more blockbuster movies than your streaming queue can handle, discovered through a DNA test that he's descended from the Benga people of Gabon. And being the overachiever he is, he didn't just say cool and move on. He hopped on a plane, landed in Gabon, met the president and first lady, and walked out with citizenship. Yes, Jules Winfield himself now holds a Gabonese passport. And let's be honest, Samuel L. Jackson doesn't do anything halfway. If he's going to connect with his roots, he's doing it with presidential handshakes and national ceremonies. But if Samuel Jackson's African roots are a blockbuster story, our next celebrity's ancestry is like a global franchise because it's connected to multiple nations. Oprah Winfrey, the queen of all media, the billionaire philanthropist, the woman who can make people cry just by giving away cars, found out that her roots stretch back to not one, but two African nations. Through genealogical research, Oprah learned that she's linked to the Pili people of Liberia and the Bamileke of Cameroon. Now, she hasn't officially acquired citizenship yet, but come on, when you're Oprah, citizenship probably comes to you. Still, the discovery was profound. It connected one of the most powerful women in the world to the ancestral stories that shaped her people long before her talk show changed television forever. And if you think tracing your roots to two African countries is impressive, wait until you meet the hip-hop legend whose ancestry isn't just history, it's music itself. Kamal Ibn John Farid, you might know him better as Q-Tip, isn't just a hip-hop pioneer, he's basically the philosopher king of boom bap. As the lyrical mastermind behind a tribe called Quest, his music has always felt deeper, more spiritual. And now we know why. Through DNA testing, Q-Tip discovered his ancestors on his mother's side hail from the Jola tribe in Guinea-Bissau, a people famous for crafting the lute, an instrument considered a precursor to the banjo. So yeah, the rhythm that shaped one of hip-hop's most iconic sounds might actually be flowing through his DNA. While he hasn't officially become a citizen yet, just knowing his lineage has fueled a new level of cultural pride. And considering how much he's already influenced music, imagine what happens when he really taps into those roots. But speaking of identity-shaking discoveries, our next star traced his family back to not one, but two African countries, and the results were as surprising as they were empowering. Anthony Anderson, the comedic powerhouse behind Blackish and countless stand-up specials, was born and raised in Compton, California. But a DNA test revealed that his family tree has roots stretching across the Atlantic to Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon. His ancestry traces back to the Bubi people of Equatorial Guinea and the Tikar, Hausa, and Fulani peoples of Cameroon. Anderson hasn't yet set foot in either nation, but knowing his origins has added an entirely new dimension to his identity, one he's hinted he may explore more deeply in the future. And honestly, when that happens, you can bet it'll be hilarious, heartfelt, and probably end with a family BBQ in two different countries. And if you think discovering multiple ancestral homelands is life-changing, wait until you hear what happened when one of Neo Soul's most beloved voices followed her roots across the ocean. Erykah Badu, queen of incense, head wraps, and spiritual R&B, found out in 2015 that her lineage traces back to Cameroon. And when Erykah Badu learns something spiritual, she doesn't just learn it, she lives it. She packed her bags and made the journey to Central Africa to meet the Bamileke people, the tribe from which she descends. According to reports, the trip was nothing short of a spiritual awakening. Badu met with chiefs, visited villages, and immersed herself in the traditions of her ancestors, describing the experience as transformative and grounding. It wasn't just about finding a place on a map, it was about reclaiming a piece of herself. But if you think that's powerful, just wait for our number one story. Because this next celebrity didn't just trace his ancestry or visit his ancestral homeland, he made history doing it. Isaiah Washington. If that name rings a bell, it's probably because you remember him as Dr. Preston Burke, the brilliant, no-nonsense heart surgeon from Grey's Anatomy. But off-screen, Washington's real-life story is just as gripping as any Shonda Rhimes script. Maybe even more so. In 2008, after tracing his ancestry back to Sierra Leone through DNA testing, Washington did something monumental. He became the first African American to officially receive Sierra Leonean citizenship based purely on heritage. That's not just a passport, that's a piece of history. Washington wasn't just reconnecting with a place, he was reclaiming a legacy that had been violently severed over 400 years ago. And he did it not just for himself, but as a symbolic act for millions of descendants of the African diaspora who never got the chance to know where they truly came from. His connection to Sierra Leone didn't stop at paperwork either. Washington built deep relationships with local leaders, launched initiatives to support education and healthcare, and even spoke about creating a cultural bridge for African Americans to follow. "This isn't a visit," he once said. "This is a return. This is restoration." And in a way, his story encapsulates the emotional weight behind this entire movement, because this isn't just about bloodlines or passports, it's about repairing history. Think about it. Centuries ago, the transatlantic slave trade ripped millions of Africans from their homes, stripped them of their identities, languages, and ancestral knowledge. Names were erased, tribes were forgotten, generations were taught to believe that their story started on a plantation rather than a continent rich with kingdoms, dynasties, and civilizations. But now, for the first time in centuries, the descendants of those people are reclaiming those stolen chapters. And Isaiah Washington's story is proof that this reclamation isn't symbolic, it's tangible. It's passports, it's property, it's partnerships, it's power, and he's far from alone. Since the year of return in 2019, thousands of African Americans have embarked on their own ancestral journeys, buying land, launching businesses, investing in infrastructure, and strengthening the ties between the diaspora and the motherland. It's a quiet but powerful movement, a reversal of history's cruelest displacement. And at the forefront of it are public figures like Washington, whose stories inspire others to follow. From Tiffany Haddish honoring her father's homeland in Eritrea, to Samuel L. Jackson tracing his lineage to the Benga people, to Ludacris proudly becoming a citizen of Gabon. These aren't just cool celebrity anecdotes. They're part of a larger, global narrative of reconnection. They're living proof that identity is not fixed by geography. It's written in our DNA. And when you choose to follow that DNA back to its origin, something profound happens. The past stops being just history and starts becoming home. And here's the real kicker. This isn't just a celebrity trend. Everyday people, teachers, students, entrepreneurs, parents are doing the same thing. Ancestry kits are selling out. Cultural heritage tours are booming. Governments across Africa, from Ghana to Sierra Leone, from Rwanda to Benin, are now offering dual citizenship programs and investment incentives to members of the diaspora. Africa isn't just welcoming its children back, it's actively calling them home. So here's the question. If you could trace your lineage back to any African nation, where would you hope your story leads? Would it be a bustling metropolis like Lagos, a coastal village in Ghana, a mountain community in Ethiopia? Drop your answer in the comments, because that one thought could be the first step toward rediscovering your origin story. And if this video opened your eyes, taught you something new, or maybe even lit a spark to dig into your own ancestral roots, go ahead and smash that like button. Seriously, it helps us tell more stories like this one. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss the next deep dive into the people, places, and histories that shape our world. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a countdown about celebrities with cool passports. It's about a global family rediscovering itself, one ancestor, one flight, and one new passport at a time. And trust me, this reunion, it's only just getting started.